Welcome back to the Canopreneur Partners Canna Newsbreak. There's a great study out on the economic impact of the cannabis industry on the U.S. economy in 2021. That's estimated it's going to add $92 billion. So that just doesn't take into account sales of cannabis product. It takes into account salaries paid, additional insurances, higher rents, et cetera, et cetera. The complete food chain, equipment bought for cultivations, right? The extra activity from all the construction going on in the space, the building dispensaries, the building cultivations. That's going to be about $92 billion in 2021, and they're estimating that's up 30%, by the way, year over year. And they're estimating up to about 160 billion in 2025. I think it's probably safe to say that number's a little bit low. Obviously, we'll see, but every other estimate we've seen of the cannabis industry that goes out more than 2 or 3 years ends up being low by a significant factor. So we're going to guess that one's low. What they did was they applied a standard multiplier of 3.5 on projected recreational, medical, retail sales. That's a typical measurement when you're measuring the economic activity of anything, whether it's hamburger sales or whatever. You kind of look at the economic impact across the entire production and supply chain of those numbers. So basically, $1 every consumer and patient spend at locations, an additional $2.50 will be injected into the economy. Much of it on local. For locals, for municipalities, because you're talking local tax receipts, host community impact fees, rents paid in those localities, salaries paid to those workers who then spend them in those localities, spend that money in those localities, or buy rent or move to those localities. States such as Colorado, Illinois, Oregon, and Washington will provide more than $10 billion each for the local economies in the coming years, which is a really stunning number. And interestingly enough, Nevada will deliver roughly $2,000 of economic impact per person this year due to their cannabis activity in their state. California, which is by far the highest recipient of this economic benefit of cannabis because of their size, they're down to about $500 a person, and that's really because there's just more people involved, right? So it's just a simply numbers game. So when people are looking at the cannabis space, they tend to just judge it by sales. How much cannabis flower are people buying? You really need to look at a bigger picture and realize that for every time that bud, right, had to be grown in a building that was constructed. That's a large building with a lot of people with payroll. It's processed, it's transported, right? There are packaging that's made up. There's just the complete supply chain that a cannabis bud goes through before it gets to you to purchase is pretty impressive. And a lot of people are involved in that. And that's a lot of jobs created and a lot of economic activity created. So this industry is doing much more than we think it is when we just look at sales numbers. It's really, really, it's been a huge boost for the entire U.S. economy. And as it continues to legalize, continues to grow, these numbers are going to jump. When New York legalizes, when New Jersey legalizes, they have legalized, when they actually have product coming off the shelves in the rec markets, that $160 billion number in 2025, we will run past that. So mark your calendars for this time, March 2025, and we'll be back and we'll show a show. If it's less than $190 billion, I'd be shocked. So there's a number. We'll throw it out there, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.